our eyes are basically an extension of the brain. They're a fascinating little thing. We have these like optic receptors with a nerve that goes straight into the brain, and light, as it interfaces with the eyes, changes our neurochemistry and physiology to such a tremendous way. So normally we're talking about hormones. In the morning, we have that rise in cortisol that kind of gets us motivated. It liberates some blood sugar, increases blood pressure, and kind of is like, let's get active. Cortisol in a healthy signaling can be like that. When you get morning sunshine, what's really amazing is that you have healthy cortisol signaling and it doesn't spike too much. It actually kind of like nicely tapers out. And testosterone and cortisol have a kind of a seesaw relationship. You know, when cortisol levels are very high, especially if a guy's not taking TRT, testosterone levels are almost always low. And when testosterone levels are high, it's actually protective on cortisol. So if you get outside and you start to get some morning sunshine in your eyes and on your skin, I'd say within a couple hours of waking up, your health is going to improve dramatically. Your cortisol rhythms are going to be better. Your brain also starts to make serotonin, which is like, we have all these drugs that increase serotonin when people are depressed or anxious or stuff like this. Like naturally, your brain makes serotonin in response to sunlight. And the light that the sun kicks off is partly visible light. Like that's a little bit that we can see in this electromagnetic rainbow, but it also kicks off a lot of infrared light that we can't see. It's beyond the visible spectrum, but it has huge health benefits. What they found is for guys who are not taking TRT, if you get outside and get whole body sun exposure, so your testicles included, this would be like the argument for being a good nudist, your T levels go up naturally because the testicles are meant to get bathed in some of this infrared light. And you can probably imagine that some of our ancestors with this old body mechanism we had more full body sunshine than we do have today. And then later in the night, the serotonin that's produced gets converted to serotonin to melatonin. And for brain health, massively important to have good melatonin signaling. It gets anti-inflammatory. It helps clean out the brain, helps regulate your leptin levels. It's just like so important. And even if you're taking testosterone, if your circadian rhythm's jacked up, meaning you're not entrained to the good light cycles, maybe you have low vitamin D levels, and then of course you got a lot of the blue light on the screens and the phones at night, you could be taking TRT, but you could be so much better if you started to like get connected with the regular light signals, which I say is more light early in the day when the sun's up, and when the sun goes down, you got to block that blue light because that stuff is just crushing for your health in dimensions beyond just testosterone.
Okay. Got a couple of questions from that. One, melatonin.
Yeah.
Is it dangerous to supplement with melatonin? Do we really stop creating our own?
No, it's not. It's really interesting. It's not the same way as testosterone, where people really understand you have this negative feedback loop where you take T and then get you fed back and stop your production. Melatonin is a little more resilient than that in the sense that you take exogenous melatonin and it doesn't suppress your levels to the same extent. I think there are some decent arguments out there for not like relying on it like all the time and taking it constantly, but it's not as tight of a negative feedback loop as taking exogenous test is. The way I personally use it is if I'm like really stretching or pushing hard for a week, or I have extra long time on the computer, like I will pop some melatonin on occasion. Or if I'm traveling and want to reset my circadian rhythm, like melatonin can be like a tool, but it's not something you just take every day, like a vitamin D or a fish oil supplement. It's just like as my baseline. Your brain makes this naturally as long as you're connected to the right light cycles. But if you're staying up really late, if you feel like you're kind of dragging ass and you want to like give a little more restoration, then I think the melatonin can be a useful supplement. With magnesium is another good thing to have as well.